Irish Guy, and it is that time of the season. And yeah, I should really get a comfier chair. So if you want the distraction from the fact that Ireland have just nicked a 1-0 win over England at Wembley, courtesy of a Festi Abasedi wonder goal strike. I mean, come on, 10 people have dropped out of the England squad. 10! Yeah, we're going to win, but don't worry, tune into today's video and I am going to grade every Premier League club's start to the season, like a depressed old teacher. Right, let's go. Arsenal D. Arsenal supporters came into this season thinking that this is going to be their year, that they were going to smack everyone in the league and finally climb above Manchester City at the top. And lads, it started so well in the first 3 away games, winning at Villa Park, beating Unai Emery, the bloke who spoiled your title challenge last season, like some sort of Disney villain, for Mikel Arteta to actually lead this ground with 3 points. It was the ultimate act of revenge. I feel like if next month Mike Tyson pushes Jake Paul in front of a bus for the Gunners to then win away at Spurs and to be seconds away from winning at Man City with 10 men. This was a monster start to the campaign, but I'm sorry, the last month has been about as gruesome as Amanda Serrano's head. Losing to Bournemouth, Newcastle and Inter Milan without scoring a goal. Failing to beat Liverpool and Chelsea too. Oh yeah, and don't forget that pretty forgettable 0-0 draw at Atalanta in the Champions League. I mean, for those of you who think that was an impressive point away to the Europa League champions, Celtic just got a 0-0 draw at Atalanta. Brendan Rodgers. Make no mistake about it, Arsenal's match in Italy was about as memorable as any line of dialogue ever uttered in the Twilight Trilogy to be 9 points behind in the title race. A month before Christmas, level on points with Nottingham Forest. I'm telling you, as we speak, a furious, edgy Arteta is right now jumping on a box of cornflakes. Aston Villa C. Look, Aston Villa currently sit 8th in the Champions League table, above so many European giants. I mean, come on paper, this team, a side who were in the championship just 5 years ago, with Jack Grealish getting punched by Fat Postman, they are now 3 places above Juventus, 9 places above Bayern Munich, 10 places above Real Madrid, 11 above AC Milan, 15 above Atletico Madrid, 17 above PSG. You know, a club who were signing Neymar from Barcelona when Villa were buying Glenn Wheeler from Stoke, someone with the pure natural ability of scrambled egg. So to be giving them just a C after that is wild. But lads, they are actually lower in the Premier League table than they are in the Champions League table, which is wild. How can a team be 10 places above Real Madrid and yet also be 4 lower than Nottingham Forest? It's like some sort of horrid riddle that makes you feel stupider than a worm. But like Newcastle United last season, their league form is suffering. They've lost to Arsenal, Tottenham and Liverpool, dropped points against Ipswich, Man United and Bournemouth. I mean, come on, Manchester United towards the end of that Ten Hag reign were like blind, helpless chipmunks. We have seen when a Manchester United manager is just weeks from the sack, then anyone could beat these demoralised sack of multi-million-pound potatoes. I mean, lads, in the last few weeks of what I got a Solskjaer, they were conceding 4 goals each against Leicester and Watford, getting absolutely cooked for breakfast by Claudio Ranieri, a befuddled old granddad whose recent appointment at Roma is even more proof that they were absolute silly monkeys for sacking. You know what? I'm not going to mention his name. Never mind who I mean. I don't want to get labelled as some weird stalker who sniffs his underwear. But my point is, not beating Manchester United at home will have stung. Exiting the League Cup at home to a dreadful Crystal Palace as well. So far this season, Villa have only won 1 match they were not expected to win. And that was against Bayern Munich, with Emery tactically outwitting a manager who finished 44 points and 15 places ahead of last season. So was it really all that shocking, really? Bournemouth B+. You might think it's crazy for me to be giving a very generous B+ to a Bournemouth team sitting 12th. I know, you're probably all screaming favoritism. That because there is Andoni Iraola in charge, I'm just willfully ignoring all the defeats. I mean, come on, losing away at newly promoted Leicester City in October, and yet I'm giving them close to an A? Really? People are going to think I'm some sort of creep who is this close to taking a train to the seaside to lick the man's doormat. But I'm sorry, wins over Arsenal and Manchester City have to boost their score. That is insane stuff. A bit like how I would expect to be given double points in a history exam if I'm able to correctly answer what William Shakespeare's favorite cereal was. I bet he pooed in his Frosties. Poets are weird. I mean, I'm sure Juliet was 12, and the sort of scenes he was writing, it's very, very creepy. I think Bournemouth have been class this season. I mean, considering they cashed in on their goal-scoring talisman in the summer, most other teams would have crumbled like cheesecake in the rain. Big things are happening at this club. Brentford B. Brentford have been good as well. Everything I said about the Cherries losing their England international striker in the summer, and then still racing the game, that is also the case for Brentford. Whilst Ivan Toney is currently underperforming in the Saudi Pro League, to such an extent that I'm sure he must just be eating chicken burgers for tea, but the Bees have been crazy. Who would have thought the G-Tech Community Stadium would ever become a fortress? I bet most of you didn't even know that's what their stadium was called. You're probably all just referring to it as Brentford's ground. I mean, to be fair, the stadium doesn't sound too intimidating. It sounds like a company filled with nerds who haven't kissed a girl in yonks. But the Bees are unbeaten at home ever since losing to Newcastle in May. But they're defending is crazy. You cannot score 22 goals in 11 games and yet still have a goal difference of 0. That would suggest that, yeah, I mean, their new Liverpool signing, Sepp Vandenberg, is a gruesome excuse of a defender. I mean, come on, they have the second worst defense in the league after Wolves. Crystal Palace are in the relegation zone and yet have conceded 7 less goals than Brentford. So I'm not going to give them a score to match Bournemouth's B+. No, because this sort of conceding goals for fun is worrying. Come on, you've got a centre-back who's the most expensive Irish footballer of all time twice. And yet poor old Dutch goalie Mark Flecken is more exposed than a 58-year-old in a boxing ring. Okay, I'm sorry, I know I keep banging on about that fight, but I mean, come on, do you see these bags? That's because I was foolish enough to be still watching that thing at 5:30 in the morning. That is the reason I now look like a decrepit John Terry. Brighton C+. Look, on paper, Brighton are 6th in the league, and yet I'm not giving them a B? Yes, because the new hipster coach Fabian Hürzeler, I'm noticing a worrying trend that used to exist at the Seagulls under Graham Potter, and that is when this weedy nerd was getting lauded and celebrated for collecting a bunch of draws. I mean, there were so many 1-1 draws in that man's watch that he was probably fantasizing about stalemates in his sleep. And so far, yeah, Brighton have drawn 4 games so far. I mean, look at their results on Wikipedia. There's more yellow there than at Mo Sislak's birthday party. Wins over both Manchester clubs and beating Spurs, great. Well, come on, failing to beat Ipswich Town, Nottingham Forest, and Wolves at home, that points to hideous inconsistency. I mean, I shouldn't be too harsh, considering the manager is barely old enough to watch the Halloween films without his mum, but still, I'll barely give them a C+. Chelsea A. I thought Chelsea would finish 15th. 15th! Enzo Maresca has come into a hideously bloated squad, and he automatically has everyone on the same page. Even Jadon Sancho. This is the ultimate level of showboating. This guy was completely unfazed by having such a monstrously big squad that he even wanted to demonstrate just how brilliant his man management skills are by inviting the Prem's biggest problem child to the party. Come on, Sancho was plopped on the bench for the Newcastle match. He hasn't been seen since, and yet there's not a peep of discontent coming from that squad. And lads, Sancho is the type of sensitive Sally to start squealing if his mum cuts off the Wi-Fi after 9. So well done, Maresca, you are successfully balancing a dressing room of egos and brats to such a point that if things don't work out at Stamford Bridge long term, he's probably going to be hired to babysit Will Smith's kids. I mean, he'll probably even have those twerps eating their broccoli before bed. Crystal Palace F. This has been the most dramatic fall off from a Premier League side I've ever witnessed in my life. 6 wins in the last 7 matches of last season, scoring 21 goals. Where's the team that thumped Manchester United 4-0? Where is the side who battered Aston Villa 5-0 with Mark Gahey in midfield? This sudden collapse without Olise is more depressing than googling the upcoming film schedule for release in 2025. I mean, who on earth wants to watch Frozen 3, Sonic the Hedgehog, or Toy Story 5? What's that one about? Woody trying to deal with a pregnant Bo Peep? Look, beating Spurs is a cute little win, but I'm sorry, that has been their only win. To be 18th in the league on just 7 points, and with Oliver Glasner now clinging to his job, and with some of the managers waiting in the wings who Palace have fancied in the past, this bloke is probably more worried about Potter than Voldemort. Everton D. Look, Everton have had a nightmare start to the season. 4 straight defeats in a row, and there were whispers that Sean Dyche was going to lose his job to Jose Mourinho. Yeah, I'm sorry, but does nobody know who these new owners are? The Friedkin family. The ones who casually tossed Jose in a bin at Roma, and within 6 months, were then considering giving the job to Frank Lampard. Someone right now is probably backing down the phone to Ruud van Nistelrooy, trying to scare him away from the Coventry job. So yeah, I think Jose would sooner eat a banana out of a toilet than work for the Friedkins again. But yeah, the Toffees have cleaned up their act. They squeaked 4 draws and 2 wins since. They're now 16th in the league, which is no better or worse than anyone was expecting. Because that's exactly what they've been under Dyche for the last 18 months. This is just what he does. Fulham B+. Look, I've been waiting to see signs of Marco Silva burn out of Fulham. I mean, come on, he's been there 4 years now. This is someone who notoriously rarely sticks around football clubs for long. But his spells at Hull City and Watford were so brief, he probably didn't even get to know the lunch lady's name. I mean, his spells at Sporting Lisbon, Olympiacos and Everton were not that much longer either. Honestly, this guy was barely in the jobs long enough to get a farewell birthday cake. So I thought, like most managers who soon get bored by constant mid-table mediocrity, I thought he would just get bored and lose motivation, but no, they have been spectacular. Sure, they look a bit like Arsenal's academy team all grown up, a bit like when they did that weird spin-off show where the Rugrats were teenagers. Iwobi, Smith Rowe, Nelson, they've known each other since they were practicing kissing on potatoes. So obviously their chemistry is going to be off the charts. This exciting Fulham team, they could challenge for Europe. Ipswich Town D+. Look, Ipswich Town have not been amazing. They've not been this free-flowing, exciting, hungry championship team coasting on adrenaline and vibes. No, Kieran McKenna isn't really impressing me much because newly promoted Wigan of 2005, they were 3rd in November. Newly promoted Hull of 2008, they were also third in November, having won away at both Arsenal and Spurs. But this Ipswich Town team, beating Spurs away is a fantastic little coup, sure, but it has taken them 11 matches to win a game. Drawing 4 in a row across September was decent. They've been okay, but for a manager who was courting interest from Chelsea and Manchester United in the summer, I expected a little more. Leicester City C. Look, this C might seem massively generous to Steve Cooper's Leicester, but he is the only new manager of the promoted sides. He didn't know Enzo Maresca's team. He was a new face walking into the building, and so to have them 15th in the league on 10 points. They've only lost 5 league matches this season. They have nicked hugely valuable points in the last minute away to their relegation rivals, which is crucial and testament to Cooper's team that they just keep going to the end. And he's even managed to squeak goals out of nearly 40-year-old Jimmy Vardy, someone who I was fully expecting to look like a dehydrated gollop with a Premier League badge on his sleeve. So Cooper, he's done good. Liverpool A+. Liverpool have been truly fantastic. Utterly brilliant. I mean, come on, to be top about the Premier League and the Champions League. Arne Slot is doing a magnificent job. This is the sort of winning run they were putting together under peak Jurgen Klopp. This is just truly insane. I can't even really believe what I'm watching. Man City D. Look, Man City are second in the Premier League. 4 points above an Arsenal team who many back to win the league, and that's only good enough to warrant a dreadful D? Well, yes, because Man City have ridiculously high standards. So back-to-back draws against Arsenal and Newcastle was disappointing, but back-to-back Premier League defeats at Bournemouth and Brighton, that is damaging. As is exiting the League Cup against Spurs, they're only 10th in the Champions League table after failing to score against Inter Milan at home and then to get embarrassed in Portugal against Amorim Sporting. That was one of the worst defeats in Guardiola's 8.5 years at the club. Not good enough. Man United F. Obviously, there's a reason Erik ten Hag lost his Manchester United job with the team sitting 14th in the league. I mean, they currently sit 13th after Ruud van Nistelrooy rescued a few points in his interim spell. But lads, their overall form has been horrible. I mean, in Europe, it took them 4 games to finally win a Europa League match. I remember back in 2012 when it looked like a novelty for the great Manchester United to be even in the Europa League. It was like seeing a prince eating out of a bin. This club is far too good for that competition. Yeah, nowadays, they're 15th. Yikes. Newcastle B. Look, I realise that Newcastle had a very sloppy autumn, failing to win 5 league matches in a row, a run which had Newcastle fans screaming for Eddie Howe to lose his job, which is insane. People were saying this ex-Bournemouth coach had come to the end of the road with this team and he'd taken them as far as he could bring them. Yeah, then they knocked Chelsea out of the League Cup and beat Arsenal at home, before knocking a high-flying Nottingham Forest off their top 4 perch. Come on lads, Newcastle are just a point behind both Arsenal and Chelsea. Sorry, but to be 1 point behind third in late November and people want him sacked? Give your heads a shake. I think Newcastle are not only reaching another cup final, but I think they're getting back in the top 4. Nottingham Forest A. Yeah, many people thought that Nottingham Forest were getting relegated. Nope, they're 5th in the league and 1 point away from being halfway to 40 points. They are the only team to beat Arne Slot's Liverpool, this dangerous counter-attacking side. Sorry, but everyone thought they'd be relegated this season. Yeah, we're a month away from Christmas and people are now starting to wear their Grinch socks, and yet Nuno Santos' team still hasn't lost an away game since the trip to Everton in April. Insane. Southampton F. I don't care that Russell Martin's team dominate possession in most matches. They are bottom of the league on 4 points, 1 win. That's it. Unless they change the way they play, they are going back down without a fuss. This isn't working. This is failing. Your players are not good enough to copy Man City. Change it now. Earth to Russell. Tottenham D. Yeah, Tottenham are 10th in November. 10th. Losing to Newcastle, Arsenal, Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Ipswich. Oh yeah, and they were incredibly lucky to only lose 3-2 at Galatasaray because that performance, that merited an embarrassing 7-2 defeat. Sorry, Ange, but so far, this is a very poor season. And if you wind up bottling that League Cup quarter-final against Amorim's Man United, then you're going to be under massive pressure. West Ham E. How are West Ham only 14th? Juno Lopetegui had such a dreadful start. It feels like the Hammers should be in the relegation zone. They have been that bad. But no, because of that undeserved last gasp winner from Manchester United, something which should not have happened, that is what's keeping them away from any real sort of relegation danger right now. But honestly, none of their new signings have taken off. This is such a dreary Lopetegui start. Wolves F. 19th in the league. They started with 10 games and no wins before VAR refs gave them a win over Southampton. Gary O'Neill and his Wolves side have been dreadful. Anyway, that's the review. What do you think? Let me know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Rate your side. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while. Come on, Ireland!